was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the best. It was the best. It was the best of times. It was the worst.
Let's start things off with a piece of consumer advice. If you haven't already played the 2018 release of Far Cry 5, then stop what you're doing and purchase a copy immediately, because Far Cry New Dawn is basically one big spoiler. While 5 is not required to play Far Cry New Dawn, it will certainly help you to understand what's going on. It's the direct sequel to last year's game, and I hope you were taking notes because you will definitely need them. The premise and plot require your full attention in between your various mutant animal hunting adventures and procuring that latest roll of duct tape required to upgrade your camp. In the story of New Dawn, you play as the Captain, a faceless person tasked with rebuilding society amongst the fallout of nuclear war. Set 17 years past the events of Far Cry 5, your group of survivors faces an increasingly menacing threat from the evil-doing baddies du jour, the Highwaymen, who want nothing more than to hunt you down and shoot you like a duck.
It's dog, Buford. Shoot him down like a dog.
Let's go, boys!
The Highwaymen are led by twin sisters Mickey and Lou, who waste no time in letting you know exactly who's boss in another classic opening scene. If there's one thing to be said for the franchise in general, it's that they are able to create some fantastically terrifying characters as their villains. If only the same could be said for the main character, who once again does not entirely interact with the world, making you feel all at once like you're on a roller coaster, rather than an active participant in this ginormous open world. Without spoiling any future plot points, it's fair to say that the story of Far Cry 5 lingers long in New Dawn. As a game that can tell an incredibly compelling story of adventure and heartache, this only goes to reinforce the importance to play 5 before venturing out in this latest iteration. I would hate to think how lost people would be without reference points of the last game. While the story is excellent, the RPG elements of this game require the highest levels of enthusiasm. You'll spend much of your time gathering ethanol, duct tape and gears like a post-apocalyptic super MacGyver and wondering, is that next upgrade really worth it? The answer almost always is yes. The power and fun of the late game weapons is something worth the effort, and upgrading your home base to buff your core performance makes combat a breeze. In New Dawn, you'll play a new feature called Expeditions, which are essentially raids. You'll be choppered in by your friendly local pilot who dumps you on site at an exotic location and leaves you to your own devices. Endless enemies spawn until you die or escape with a GPS tagged package. They are brutal and unforgiving. And speaking of travel, get ready to do some more, because boy howdy does this map take some traversing. For those familiar with Far Cry 5, the good news is you don't need to update your map, because it's entirely the same. You'll be able to visit all of your favourite spots from the previous game, reimagined with pretty pink flowers and mutated sea bass.
Really? Are they ill-tempered?
Absolutely.
Well, that's a start, you know.
If you haven't played it before, this map is massive. You'll spend a lot of time running, driving, riding and flying between objectives, so the advice here is to do it as quickly as possible. The vehicle types in this game are varied, but they all handle with a similar awkward arcade jerkiness that never really feels comfortable. You can open up fast travel and zip around the map, and it's almost imperative that you do, before you find yourself taping down the drive button and making yourself a cup of coffee. In combat, you'll find the enemy AI is pretty weak. It makes it super easy to exploit. The variety of bullet-soaking bad guys scales up over time, meaning you'll need to find increasingly more sinister ways to dispatch your foe. Although pairing up with someone from the roster of more than adequate local helpers will mean controlling any scenario is super easy. Their stealth takedowns make liberating hotspots almost simple. The counter to this is that your sidekick has a similarly stupid AI function. 90% of the time they kick ass and take names. They'll spend the other 10% running headfirst into a wall of bullets and crying for help. It's a balancing act of awesomeness and stupidity, like a roster of gun-toting Ron Burgundys.
What did you say?
Your arsenal in the game is suitably stocked with a wide selection of boom for you to choose from, although you'll find yourself drawn to the bow and arrow, which continues to be the most ridiculously overpowered weapon in the game. At its best, Far Cry New Dawn is an exciting extension to the story laid out in Far Cry 5. It's rich and deep, with amazing attention to detail in its core cast. The game has gorgeous visuals, and the combat play continues to be exciting and fun to engage with. At its worst, it's a tiring fetch quest simulator with long periods of already seen mechanics. Although, if you enjoy fishing with the ever-present risk of being attacked by a mutant mountain lion, then this could be the game for you. I would have loved to have seen this released as DLC to number 5 and treated as such. There's just not enough new content in this release to warrant a full game in its own right. For fans of the series, you'll continue to love what Ubisoft are putting out here, because it's exactly the same. The rest of us will be waiting around with eager anticipation for the next evolution of this franchise. For more on Far Cry New Dawn, check out Shaken Not Nerd on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter and Instagram, or subscribe to us on iTunes, Spotify or your nearest podcatcher.